Welcome to BoomerTECH Adventures course, Taking Awesome Pictures with Your iPhone or iPad Camera. In this video, we are going to learn about the camera app basics. This is video number 1, and it focuses on iPhone 13 and later iPhones like 14, 14 Pro, etc. If you have an earlier phone, you want to look at the alternative video number 1, which is in your pamphlet. Now, because there are different phones and different operating systems, sometimes the pictures on these slides may not look exactly like the picture or the screen on your own device. However, the information will help you do what you want to do. The other thing you're going to notice as we go through this slideshow is that there are an amazing amount of options, and this video can only introduce you to them. You're going to need to take time and play around with them and figure out which options you really like. But let's get started. So if you're not watching this video on your device, I would suggest that you have your iPhone right next to you so you can try out some of the options as we go along. The topics we're going to investigate include accessing the camera app. I'm going to show you 3 ways to get into your camera app. We're going to look at the basic icons. We're going to look at types of images, types of videos, ways to set off your shutter other than just using the round button. We're going to look quickly at camera settings, going to look at how you can use your camera with QR codes, and then finally talk about screenshots. So let's start with the 3 ways to open your camera app. Now sometimes you may be somewhere where you want to immediately take a picture and you really don't have time to swipe up, put in your passcode, open the camera app. Fortunately, there's a way to get there from the lock screen, and I'm going to show you that in a couple of seconds. Secondly, of course, you can open your camera app from your home screen. And thirdly, I'm going to show you how you can open it from the control center. And if you've never used the control center, I will demonstrate so you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's look at the lock screen first. If you look at your lock screen on your iPhone, you will look down the bottom right-hand corner where that arrow is pointing, and you will see a little camera icon. You're going to do a long press on it. Now, a long press means that there's a little bit more pressure than just a tap. And when you do that long press, your camera app will immediately open. However, to make sure that everything is set up properly, we need to visit Settings. And when we go to Settings, we're going to scroll down to Accessibility, and then we're going to look at Touch. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Over on the left is a picture from my phone of my settings. I've scrolled down to Accessibility. You see it's under General. You see the arrow pointing to it. So I'm going to tap on Accessibility. Once I do that, the picture or the screen on the right will pop up. Once again, I have to scroll down a bit till I see Physical and Motor. And then I will tap on Touch. That will take me to a third screen, which you see on the left. And once again, I am looking for the word Touch. Now, you may have a different phone than mine, and it may look a little differently. But the key thing is you're looking for Touch. So once I tap on that, on my phone, which is an iPhone 14 Pro, this screen opens up. What it does, it gives me the ability to control my touch. You may see a slider instead of fast, default, slow. But what you're looking for is the option to control how strong your touch is. And you see on the iPhone 14 Pro, there is a touch duration test, and I can actually try things out. So I urge you to maybe stop the video, take a couple of minutes, go through these screens on settings, and personalize this particular aspect of the camera app. When you come back, we will look at the home screen. Now, of course, you can open the camera app from your home screen, and I'm sure everybody watching recognizes the camera app, which is the little black camera, and you just tap on it and it will open, and you will see something like the picture on the right, a screen with a bunch of icons on it. And we will look at those icons in just a few minutes. Now, the third way that you can access your camera app is through the control center. The control center came out with iOS 13. Now, iOS is the operating system for the iPhone and the iPad. And most phones and most iPads, you open the control center by swiping down from the upper right-hand corner. You see the arrow there. You're going to swipe on a diagonal. Now, if that doesn't happen to work, you might try swiping up from the very bottom of your screen. But you should be able to, these days, swipe down from that upper right-hand corner in a diagonal, and you will see something that looks like this. This is your control center. Here you want to tap the camera icon to open the app. So those are the three ways that you can access your camera app. Now, the newer iPhones have three lenses. They have a regular lens, a telephoto lens, and a wide angle. These work together through the software to adjust to whatever you call for when you are using the features on your camera app. So let's look at some of those features. All right, now this is a blank screen so that you can see the different possibilities. And we're going to start up at the top left-hand side. So most people recognize the Thunderbolt as the indicator for flash. And if it's yellow, that means it's active. You can turn it on and off from this particular icon. Next to it is the icon for night mode, and we will look at that a little bit more detail in just a slide or two. The concentric circles are the icon for the live photo. Again, I'll explain what that is later in this video. If it's yellow, if you tap on it, it turns yellow, then you know it's on. If you tap on it and it's white, it's off. Now, these squares indicate filters that you can use or effects that you can use with your picture. There are just a couple of them. There are more possibilities in another place on your camera and also in the Photos app. Now, one thing you will notice is HDR is not there. Some of you may see the letters HDR, and you can tap on it, turn yellow, turn white. It's not on this particular picture because the iPhone 14 Pro does not give the user that option. It is built into the software and uses the features automatically. Then you see that upward pointing arrow. That means there are more options, which I will show you in a minute or two. But first, let's look at night mode. When you're using night mode, you should be either in 1x or 2x magnification. It does come on automatically in low light. When it comes on, the icon turns yellow, and you can see it up there. And notice that there's a number next to it. that means that's the number of seconds it's going to take in order for the picture to be taken. Now, sometimes that number is larger than 3. When you see a number, that means you better hold that iPhone or iPad very still, because it doesn't do it instantaneously. It doesn't take the picture instantaneously. So if you're going into night mode, it probably makes sense to lean up against something that you can brace your arms or use a tripod. All right, now we're still up at the top, and you see the little green dot? That's the selfie lens. When we take a selfie, that's the lens the camera is using. Now, look down, and you see the first top row. That's your magnification, 0.5, 1x, 2x, 3x when you get into the telephoto sections. Under that is a row of the various types of images you can take, images, video, etc. I think most of you probably recognize that the double arrow in a circle is what you tap in order to reverse the lenses so you can take a selfie. And of course, the big round circle is the shutter. The little square are thumbnails of the pictures you've just taken, and we'll look at those in a little bit more detail because you've got some options there. Now, this is pretty cool with the newer phones, and not all of them have it, but it's called the macro, the yellow circle with the flower. It's yellow because I have it turned on. That's if you want to get real close to something like an insect or a flower, something small, you can get in there. Now, if you have your phone there or your iPad, tap on the thumbnail. Tap on the thumbnail, pick an image, and then look at the bottom. You have choices. You have the share icon, which is a square with the upward pointing arrow. You have the heart for the favorites. If you tap on that, this picture will be saved to your favorites. You've got the eye, which indicates that keeps the information about your photo, the date, the place that it's taken, the type of camera, etc. You can do some editing right from the thumbnail. And then, of course, if you don't like the picture, you can put it in the trash, which is really a nice option so it doesn't take up space. Now, look up at the top where the yellow arrow is pointing. Notice I have tapped on what was an upward facing arrow. Now it's downward facing. Well, that gives me more options. So right across the bottom, you see that it simply has the same icons with the thunderbolt for the flash, night mode, the concentric circles for live, the different ways or aspects, I should not say aspects, the different filters you can use. And then you see a number that says 4:3, 4:3 ratio. That is your size or aspect of the picture you are taking. And if you tap on that, you will see that there are other options, 4:3, square, 16:9, etc. If you are taking pictures for social media, I urge you to choose square, because too often the other pictures get clipped when they are posted to social media. This way, a square usually doesn't get clipped and you see the entire picture. So aspect ratio, that's a technical term. That's the ratio of the width to the height of the image. 4:3 is standard with your iPhone. 1:1, which is a square, or 16:9, which is the panorama, is also an option. And you can also do them in editing in your Photos app. Now, while we're still on this downward facing arrow, if you go beyond, if you slide over beyond the size, you will see two more icons. The one the arrow is pointing to on the far right is the timer. And just to remind you, if you've never used your timer before, when you tap on that, you have the option of 3 seconds or 10 seconds once you tap the shutter. So if you are taking a picture that you're going to be in and you're using the timer, you need to decide whether it's going to take you 3 seconds to get with everybody else or 10. The other option there you'll see was the plus and the minus in a circle over on the far left. You see that? That allows you to adjust the exposure right there. And there's a sliding scale and you can do that. Now, beyond that, there is another icon which is 3 interlocking circles. And these are the filters, but more than available in the square section. And one of the cool things about this set of filters is that you can actually turn a picture into a black and white, and we'll look at that a little later. All right. So let's look at these 3 interlocking squares and the filters that you can use there. They change the ambiance of your picture. So if you look, I've tapped the squares and I get the option to slide through some of the different ambiances. So the one on the left, it says cool. Do you see there in the middle in your yellow block? Well, if you look at that and compare it to the one next to it, which is warm, well, the cool has kind of a blue undertone, so it feels that it is not as warm as perhaps the one on the right, which has more undertones in the greens, especially of maybe perhaps yellow. So those are, again, that's one of those features that allows you to play with the different ways your images will look. And if you're not happy with the original, or if you are, you can play around and see whether you want to give it a slightly different aspect. Now, in the middle of your screen, you probably have noticed that there is a cross. Well, if you tap on it, a yellow box and a sun will appear. And there's a whole video about this, but just very briefly, that allows you to choose what to focus on, and it allows you to choose or alter your exposure. So you can tap your finger anywhere on the screen and that box will move, and that's what will be in sharpest focus. If you slide your finger up and down where the sun is, you can make it lighter or darker depending on your preferences. Now here is what the screen looks like on an iPad. You will notice right off it does not have nearly as many options, nor is the camera as good. You can still take a decent picture, but certainly the iPhone cameras offer you more options. But you see the icons are the same. You see there's the live photo concentric circles, the timer, the flash, the selfie, the shutter, the thumbnail, and then the type of image that you're going to take. Over on the left, you see it's small, but it says 1x. That's where you choose your magnification. Now, let's look at the type of images you can take. There are a couple. First is the regular, the 4:3 ratio. The square, 1:1, and again, that is like the kinds of pictures you want to put in social media. And then, of course, we have the panoramic, which is 16:9. Now, if you've never taken a panoramic, let me just take a few seconds and just give you a brief overview of what to do. So, When you're taking a panoramic, you want to keep the device in portrait or upright position. Then, aim your camera at where you want to start the image. Tap the shutter once, it will change to this square within a circle, and then very slowly sweep the camera across the landscape or the group of people that you want to get in the panorama. Now notice there is a white arrow and a yellow line. You want to keep that arrow as much on that line as you can to make sure that the picture comes out well. When you finish, you're at the end of where you want the panorama to stop, then tap the shutter and your picture is done. Again, if you've never taken a panorama, you might want to stop the video here and try it out. Now, another type of picture you can take is using portrait mode. This is one of my favorite. It uses both the telephoto and the wide-angle lenses, and what it does is it adjusts the depth of field. So what happens is, in the background, it gets blurry or fuzzy, so the emphasis is on the face or the portrait. So you see Teddy here, he's very much in focus, but beyond him, the background is fuzzy, and that's what portrait mode will do. There are several lighting effects: natural, contour, studio light, and stage. And here Teddy is being shot in studio light, which means in the background turns black, which is pretty effective for different things. Now, you don't only have to use people or animals. You could also use things like plants, flowers. It's very dramatic to take a picture of a colorful flower with studio light so that it's just against a black background. Here are a couple of other examples. The natural light, again, automatically blurs the background. And again, you see an example of the stage light. So Froggy on the top picture is in stage light. It's black behind him. Same place, same character in natural light. You see Froggy in pretty good focus, and behind him it's blurred. Now, as long as you take something in portrait, take your image in portrait mode, you can adjust it in your Photos app. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time to show you what you need to do. So if you open your Photos app and you scroll down to albums, you will see one of the choices is media types. And what you want to do is click on or tap on portrait, and then you can change the settings and make it look any way you pretty much want. So that's something to keep in mind, and you might try that out. Let's move on to video. Video is pretty straightforward. You've got the shutter, and when you tap it, it will start to record, and the microphone picks up very well. So background noises will appear in the video. So you need to be aware of that. When you're done shooting your video, you tap on the square and you have your video, and it goes to your Photos app. Now, there are some different kinds of video that are options. One of them is time-lapse. Time-lapse compresses the video. In other words, you might shoot 5 minutes of video and it will show up as 30 seconds. Now, here's a gentleman making a little treat. Let me show you. All right, so you see that obviously took him longer than the 5 seconds I think that video ran. But you saw the whole process in a compressed way. Here's another time lapse. This one was a 10-minute video that has been compressed. If you look way at the back, you see the birds at the bird feeder, and it's just kind of fun. A different kind of video is the slow motion, and this is very helpful if you want to watch a process very slowly so that you can see how it all goes together. And this is my colleague at BoomerTECH Adventures, Ed, and he's going to demonstrate his tennis stroke. See how it slows down, and you can see the position of his arm and his hand. So that's another one. Now, some of the newer cameras, for example, my iPhone 14 Pro has another kind of video, and it's called cinematic. And this is for people who want to make movies. And this is what it does. The video has a very shallow depth of field, so the focus is on the subject. So if you look at that picture, you see the focus is on the bloom, and notice how fuzzy or blurred it is in the background. So imagine if you are shooting a movie, a story, or a documentary that doesn't have people in it, how you can emphasize a particular object or person. Now just let me run the video. It's very short. Okay, so I'm moving away from that. Everything's back in focus. Now I'm focused on this bud, which is out of focus, and now it's in focus, but look at the background. And I move through. Everything's pretty clear, and then we're going to stop it right here. So, moving on, another kind of video, sort of, but it really goes with an image, is your live photo. You remember from the screens that the concentric circles, if they're yellow, that means live photos is on. If it's white, it's not. So what does that mean? Well, it's actually a mini video, though it shows up in a still photo. It shows the context of where the photo is. And what happens is there's a still frame in the middle. In this case, it's a still frame of a creek in the winter. There was a quick video before and after the still frame. So if I were to show you this on my phone in my Photos app, you would actually, for just an instant, see water running. It doesn't transfer to a slideshow, so I can't demonstrate it here, unfortunately. But it starts actually before the shutter release. You are focused on something, you hit the shutter, you've got 1.5 seconds before and after the little action. So you might have been startled the first time you ever saw one of these. Somebody's arm moves, or a tail wags, or a branch waves in the wind. And if you don't know what you're looking at, it's kind of spooky. But it has a use. So if you're taking pictures of a gurgling brook, or a wagging tail on your pooch, or a toddler playing around in the snow, by using live photo, you get just a little bit of context and a little bit of movement before it settles on the still picture. So you can turn this on and off, both in settings and in actual camera app. As I showed you before, when it's yellow, those concentric circles are yellow, it's on. When you tap them, they're white, it's off. We talked about these 3 circles, interlocking circles, and these filters offer you more choices. And the big option, I think, is the fact that you can turn a black and white picture, a color picture, you see the one on the left, you can turn it into a black and white picture. And you know, some images really are stunning when they're in black and white, but of course, it's not like the back in the days where we bought rolls of film and you bought black and white or you bought color film. But here you have the option of turning a colorful picture into a black and white if you so desire. It does not work the other way around. So those are the filters. Again, something to play around with. They are also in the Photos app. So you have options, and again, it's fun to take time to play around with them. Now we're going to leave the images and go on to some other functions. Did you know that there are 3 ways to set off your shutter other than tapping on the circle? The first is the volume buttons on your iPhone or iPad, and you can tap the up volume and it will click the shutter. And it's really pretty cool, especially if you're holding your phone horizontally. You can easily get to taking the picture. And I find that I'm more apt to be able to hold the phone steady while I'm taking a picture if I use the volume buttons, as I said, when it's on the horizontal. Or if I'm scooching down to take a picture low down, and again it's on the horizontal, it's much easier to use the volume button than trying to hit the shutter on the screen. The second way, believe it or not, are your earbuds. Now the picture there is wired earbuds, and you will see that there's a plus and minus, that's the volume. But you also can activate the shutter from those and also on the earbuds that are not wired. So that's the second way. And the third way, of course, is the timer, which we talked about a little earlier. So 3 ways other than just the regular shutter, you can take a picture. Now I would like to take you to camera settings. And you can see here that there are a multitude of options. I can only in this video introduce you to them, show you where they are. I really urge you again sometime to sit down and go through, read the small print, try things out, and personalize the camera to your specifications. So on the left, you will see that there are a variety of options having to do how you record your video. Do you want to use stereo sound? Do you want to be able to scan for QR codes? In the middle, there's some other options. Top is composition. And notice I have a gold star. I put that there next to grid. I like the grid turned on in my camera app because it helps me with the composition of my pictures. It does not show up in the pictures themselves, but it's a real help when I'm trying to compose a good picture. And there's some other options there. And then over on the right, you see some more options you have. And again, I've got another yellow star with the macro because I like that. So those are things that you can do, and I really suggest you explore them and try them out. Also, you have the option to use your camera with QR codes. Now this is a QR code, and we see them in different places. All you have to do, let me show you, is to hold your camera up to the QR code so it fills the screen. You see the picture there? And once you do that, a dialog box appears asking if you want to open that website. Now in this case, it showed up at the top. Sometimes depending on the iPhone or the iPad, it shows up at the bottom. If you want to open it, you tap on it, and you'll be taken to the website. So that's a pretty nifty feature. You don't need a special app for QR codes anymore. And the last thing I'd like to share are screenshots. These are one of my favorite type of images. I like to take screenshots of things I find online. Here you see some containers, and I happen to like those particular arrangements. So I took a screenshot. It goes to my Photos app, and I think I took this in the middle of winter when there was 3 feet of snow outside my window. And so I'll go back to that in the spring when I'm choosing to fill containers for my garden and my deck. But I also use it for recipes or directions on how to do something. I find it very helpful. What you do is you have to click the on-off button and the up volume button at the same time. And I do mean the same time. You can't be even a touch off. You'll see a flash of white on the screen, and you will know you have successfully taken a screenshot. It goes to your Photos app. Here's the caution. Don't hold those buttons too long, because if you do, you will be sending a message to emergency services. So you don't want to do that. So it's quick, click, both at the same time, and you've got a screenshot. One last thing is really not on the camera app, but I think it's worth sharing with you, is markup. Markup allows you to personalize your pictures. So when you're in the Photos app, not your camera app, your Photos app, pick a picture and tap Edit, and then look for the 3 dots up at the top. Tap those 3 dots, and you will get something like this. You'll see that where the arrow is pointing, there are pens, there's an eraser, there's a plus sign that allows you to do text. You can personalize with colors and with the type of pen you want your images. So if you're making birthday cards or something on social media, it's really a neat feature. So here's just an example. Chocolate chip cookies made fresh for you. And I did that with markup. As you work through this course, there are additional videos you're going to want to watch. You certainly are going to want to pay attention to the focus and exposure. I spent a little bit of time earlier telling you about that, but this goes into more detail. How to use HDR. Now, remember I mentioned that some iPhones, like the iPhone 14 Pro, you don't have that option. It's automatically built in. Some of your phones, you may see that HDR, and so it's good to know all about it. Again, how to take a panorama, examples of slow motion, and there's some tips for taking some really stunning pictures, which use that grid, by the way. So that's it for this video, the basics of your camera app. Thank you for watching. This has been Jill from BoomerTECH Adventures. If you've never visited our website, I invite you, BoomerTECHadventures.com. Also, we have a YouTube channel which has over 100 free videos, and we add them regularly. And also, we're on Facebook. So thanks for watching. I hope you have learned something new. Remember, if you have questions, just email us at ed@boomertechadventures.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Bye for now.